fortunate, and we're trying other things. Like we've got kind of, I guess, staying safe is obviously key, but staying sane and ensuring that everyone's connected and people are still seeing their colleagues. So we kind of have I've set up with my team on a Friday. We play like a game called Just One, which is a game you can play quite easily through a platform like this, and just have like a glass of wine and have a chat at the end of the week. We've got on Fridays at 1:15, the whole company can dial in to an OakNorth Got Talent. So we do 15 minutes. People can show their talent. So we've got like an OakNorth band who are going to play some tunes for us. I'm going to show everyone how to make perfect fluffy American pancakes using just 6 ingredients.
Amazing.
One is an egg, which is quite tricky to come by currently, but yeah. So, so there's different things like that. We've got meditation and yoga sessions for everybody who can, who want to dial in Tuesdays and Thursdays. So different things like that that we're trying to introduce to make sure that the team, are taken care of.
That's great. I mean, it's nice to see. I mean, it feels like when a culture in a company is great, then people really sort of pull together, don't they? And things like that actually just kind of reinforces that with people, which is nice. And if I'm honest with you, like you say, some of these things is just finding the time to distract people a little bit from kind of what's going on outside. So but I mean, look, I'm gonna move on from the doom and gloom of Corona, though. Actually, you guys have been hitting the news for lots of really, really positive reasons as well. So I mean, you ranked this week, I think it was, in the FT 1000 list. So you guys are up at the top, which is phenomenal. Yeah. Like that's a huge accolade. I mean, that you couldn't buy better press than that, surely, in terms of the credibility that breeds to your brand for increasingly more and more sort of mainstream, right?
Yeah, I mean, look, we were really, really proud and humbled. There's some amazing businesses on there, and we found out sort of a few weeks ago that we were on the list somewhere, and Rishi and Joel were like, top 1,000, like, this isn't that prestigious. But then when we found out we were number one, then we were very, very happy. And yeah, I mean, I think, as you say, it's good to have some positive news. I mean, one thing I saw from one of our borrowers, which I thought was really great, and just a great kind of creative solution to try and overcome some of the challenges from COVID-19. So Leon, which has got sites up and down the country, they are speaking to the government and speaking to a number of other restaurants and the hospitality associations to see if they can get permission to sell items like flour, like eggs, certain meats, beans, things like that, which the supermarkets are obviously struggling to fill shelves with. And obviously that's a way for them to keep the sites open, keep people in their jobs, but also take some of the pressure off the supermarkets whilst ensuring that people like me can get their eggs to make their fluffy American pancakes. So,
I mean, Val, we've already had a comment in the channel for the recipe for your pancakes. So at some point you're going to have to pass that
okay, don't worry. I will pass that on.
But it's I like to say, it is interesting to see what people are doing. I mean, I don't want to be the bearer of sort of doom on this one, but I mean, I posted on LinkedIn this morning. I mean, I think the reality is that tens of thousands of businesses will go out of business, and I don't want to. I don't want to be the guy who comes across super sort of doom and gloom and not very empathetic. But I mean, we've been in weird times now for quite a long period, right? We've been in a place where essentially businesses that probably weren't, by my definition of business, there's sort of profit that's sort of required to sort of state that definition for me, really sort of being maintained. I mean, do you think this is going to sort of, I guess, be a bit of a reset from a market perspective?
Yeah, I mean, I think, and not to be kind of Darwinian about it, like the strongest will survive, because I think there's a clear distinction to make between those businesses that were good, profitable businesses that were doing very well, and then there's just been this, this period now where they're being told they have to close up shop for at least, a quarter of the year, which no matter what business you are, if you can't do anything, that's going to have an impact. Now you can hope that some of those businesses have, sufficient cash reserves, but but even still, I mean, the cycle is you need money coming in, and that helps you to kind of invest in whatever you need to keep business going. So I think there's a distinction to make between those businesses that were doing well before this crisis and should be supported so that they can come out the other side. What we don't want to see is a sort of a graveyard of businesses, on the high street, of good businesses who were doing well, versus those businesses who, as you say, didn't have necessarily proven business models, who, and this is a big criticism for the fintech sector, right? Being sort of fueled by VC money, giving them that next bit of runway. And obviously for those who've got capital in recently, then great, they'll have that sort of runway and that will take them through this period. But for those who might have thought we're going to go out to market now, or in the next month or two, could find that they're really, they're experiencing huge challenges. So, I think in that regard, then you'll see probably even more of a shift in the conversation, which there has been in the last 6 months or so, certainly, catalyzed by WeWork's failed IPO, that sort of need to look at both growth and profits and sort of demonstrate a clear path to profitability. That's even more important, I think, post this crisis.
Yeah, I wonder if there's been a bit of a preparing for winter from many of the sort of big fintechs, hasn't there, in terms of what we thought was just going to be a financial downturn. I guess now, nobody ever expects the apocalypse, right? So, actually the extra added sort of craziness of this. But I mean, there's still big raises being announced. I mean, Zinja yesterday have announced, was it 200 million? A raise, which is just so the amount of money that's still sort of coming into this space, that doesn't seem to be being put off by them. I wonder if actually a lot of the VCs are going to feel quite uncomfortable now, because do they double down on their investments to keep those things really going and afloat, or do they now start getting a little bit more concerned about actually the returns that they'll see? But I mean, if anything, I think largely we're seeing, and it's a sad reality. We're seeing a lot of, as you say, a lot of companies that probably shouldn't have been companies in the first place, probably wrapping up. You're going to see a lot of people, unfortunately, becoming unemployed, and that sort of spiral. I mean, one group of people who are coming out of this pretty positively is actually the UK government. I think, bizarrely, I've never felt so connected to them or believe in them in terms of the way that we do right now. I think Boris is doing a really, really good job.
Yeah, and Rishi Sunak as well, I would say. I mean, like, considering that it's kind of the baptism of fire. I mean, he came into the job, 6-7 weeks ago. So, becoming chancellor is challenging enough. But I think, again, he's sort of, he's come across really, really well, really genuine, and pretty inspirational as well. His speech he made on Thursday evening, Thursday afternoon, where he kind of said we can either look back on this and be proud. And, he's seeing many examples of sort of small acts of kindness, whether it's, someone going and sort of buying food and supplies for, the elderly person who lives next door, or whether it's, Cristiano Ronaldo opening up his hotels and telling them into pop-up hospitals, whether it's hotels in San Francisco saying to the homeless people there, come in, we'll give you shelter, so that you're not sort of at risk of contracting the virus. And I think we're seeing, again, then some actually really good creativity from some great entrepreneurs like John Vincent at Leon, trying to come up with solutions, ways to save jobs. And I think, we're going to get through this, and in 3 months, everybody's going to love their job. They're going to love seeing their colleagues, and hopefully it'll give everyone a really good positive boost to make sure that we can get through the final half of the year.
It is going to make everything seem very everything is very relative at that stage, isn't it? I mean, there's a lot of people who were probably in very large organizations who were feeling like the time might be now to go and do that risky thing at a startup or build something, and actually they're probably very grateful that they're sat in a big organization now with all of the security and all of the war chest that they have. But I mean, it is going to be interesting to see. I think my view on business is always, and I've said this to you before, Val, but you've got to be putting money away for you don't know what will happen, and for those organizations who really have not done that now, then it's going to be really interesting to see what they do. But I mean, I think the best thing any of them can do is act quickly. Jason always says to me, it's not the strongest that survive, as the Darwin quote is. It's the ones that react most quickly to change. And the world has changed dramatically.
Yeah.
And I mean, hopefully people kind of get up and change with it. So question coming from Dexter Cousins. So we've had, hey, Valentina, how can OakNorth leverage their technology platform to speed up decision-making processes for business lending? Do you see a global opportunity with so many governments pledging money to small businesses? I mean, this could be a good opportunity, right?
Yeah, no, I mean, look, it's a really good question. And that's exactly what we're doing on the platform side. So obviously we have in the UK, OakNorth Bank, where we're using the platform to do our own lending. And as people have asked us, obviously, what this means for our own book, because we do lend to restaurants, we do lend to bars, nurseries, hotels, etc. And I think because of the fact that our platform is doing proactive monitoring, we're able to we always have a very close, keeping a very close eye on our entire portfolio. And we also have, because of this time that saves the back end, we're able to build much stronger relationships and invest more time with the customer at the front end. So we're sort of looking at each customer on a case by case basis and seeing how they're being impacted, and then what we can do to help if we need to do anything specifically. On the platform side, that is exactly it. We're working with our partner banks because they're saying, look, we need to be able to see how the situation is evolving and changing on an hourly basis even. So being able to help them kind of work through that, manage the risk of their portfolio in this sort of 3-month period. A lot of the banks that we work with, the remit was, we want to grow our loan book. So they use the platform to do that. And sort of in the short term, it's shifting to, we just need to make sure that our existing loan book is managed correctly and that we can, manage the risk of this. So, that is something that we, as you say, we can see an opportunity. And Rishi, our co-founder and CEO, always says, in times of economic turmoil, the strongest businesses will find opportunity where others might see threat. And I think we've seen even examples of this in other sectors, right, where they say, well, actually, if you are one of those businesses who's been keeping cash stashed away, or if you've recently closed a funding round, you'll have that capital to take advantage, from some of those businesses who might be needing to make people redundant, or who are having to sort of permanently lay off staff. Then you might have an opportunity to kind of lap up some of that talent because you've got the cash reserves to do that. So it's an interesting time, but I think we're in a positive position, as you say. I mean, fast growing business, profitable, profits increased 95% in 2019.
That's just amazing, isn't it? That's I mean, again, it points to you go about your business in the right way, you provide a great service for people, and it is profitable. That is business, right?
And that just gives us a degree of assurance and security. I mean, we're an extremely well capitalized bank. We've got 145,000 savings customers. And even more so now, because people want the sort of reassurance of putting their money with a bank that can offer FSCS protection whilst also giving them competitive rates. So that is, again, an opportunity for us to sort of build up our deposits customer base, and hopefully encourage those customers who are at the point of maturity to stay with us for another period.
So Val, I mean, it's always never ask a lady her age, but you're a lot younger than I am, right? So I mean, this seems like quite sort of I guess unprecedented times for this. But I mean, where were you when 2008 happened? Because obviously, I mean, this is probably the last sort of cycle that we sort of went through in this scale.
Yeah, I mean, I was actually talking about this with some friends the other day, because I was saying we've never actually known the world in a non-crisis period. I mean, we went to university in 2008. So for our entire adult lives, we've only ever known the world in a low interest rate environment. So it's been very cheap to borrow. So getting a mortgage has been pretty cheap, but also savings has been pretty different to what we hear from our parents, who talk about days when it was 5, 10, 15%. And I think, that's also meant that from the, going back to your point around businesses, I mean, the low interest rate environment has meant it's very, obviously very cheap to borrow. and so you've probably had a lot of businesses who've been able to sort of survive and keep going, who in a high interest rate environment wouldn't have been able to do that. So I think this will only prolong that further. I mean, the low interest rate environment was supposed to last, a few years. Like, I think they said it would go back to normal in 2011, and obviously that hasn't happened. The highest I've ever known Bank of England rates as an adult is 0.75. So it's when I hear about what they were even in 2007, which was sort of 8%, it seems kind of completely alien to me. I couldn't imagine putting that money away and getting that as savings. Yeah.
Yeah, it's crazy, isn't it? Like I say, with this now, that's we might have to, your kids might be the people who see the interest rate go above 1% with the Bank of England. Yeah. But yeah. It is a weird one, and I think that this is probably not going to be something that's going to be going away anytime soon, I guess. But as you say, it feels like there's always opportunity in these spaces, and I think I don't mean the people selling hand sanitizer for £1,000 a pop type thing. I think there's places that actually people can be helping the community, or can be helping other businesses, or just helping out each other. So and it's great. I mean, I always if I'm ever asked of a good news story from the UK fintech scene, I always kind of reference you guys, because it's not just the fact that you're being successful. I always just love the way that you guys go about it. I've not met anybody at OakNorth I don't like, which is a big sort of just show of, like, actually, if you go about your business in the right way, you have the right culture, there's always a good outcome at the end of that. So we're going to come to the top of the hour now, so we probably should close out now and say thank you. So for anybody who wants to kind of catch more of this, if you head back here 8:30 GMT every morning during the week. I'm not going to be doing this at the weekend. I'm not going to be annoying my wife and kids at that much. But Val, thank you very much for joining us this morning. Where can people find out more about you and OakNorth?
Yeah, so you can visit our website, oaknorth.com. And if you want to connect with me directly, you can find me Val Kristensen on Twitter, or Valentina Kristensen on LinkedIn.
Thank you very much for joining us. That's all we have for you today. Have a great day, everybody. Stay safe, and see you tomorrow morning.
Bye.